Welcome to the Vault. Newsweek is source number one. Bryan Kohberger was reportedly tortured by girls in middle school, a former classmate said. A former classmate of Kohberger's, who asked to remain anonymous, told the Daily Mail that the murder suspect was bullied in middle school. A whole clique of popular girls made fun of him in school, the classmate said. They were the cheerleaders and the ones that every kid had crushes on, quote unquote. The classmate said these girls literally tortured Kohberger in middle school. Former friends of Kohberger said he was a heavy-set kid who was often made fun of by other kids. He reportedly also lost a significant amount of weight his senior year of high school, but it wasn't just his appearance that had changed. Tom Orntz, the father of Kohberger's former friend, told KXLY-TV that Kohberger got pretty aggressive with his son later in high school. Another classmate made a chilling comparison to the victims of the quadruple murder. It's interesting to me that the girls he accused of killing were nice looking and seemingly popular, much like the ones that made fun of him throughout his childhood, the classmate said, according to Daily Mail. Before Kohberger was arrested, former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer theorized that the killer is someone with perverted thoughts and anger toward women. They're known as incels, who has watched this house, who is seeing all of these beautiful girls go in and out. And their rage and their own personal horrific desires, they realized that night, she told Newsweek. Somebody's still in that area, somebody that has seen these beautiful girls because only girls live there, right? An individual with absolutely horrible murderous desires against these women, a femicide type case, and it came to a boiling point combined with an opportunity. That is from Jennifer Coffindaffer, former FBI agent. This information is by Newsweek. ABCnews.com is source number two. Kohberger wrote in 2011 that he had no emotion and little remorse. He later posted online in a online forum years ago, that he had crazy thoughts and delusions of grandeur. BK28 allegedly posted an online message boards devoted to a condition called visual snow syndrome, a disorder that causes someone to see static. Between November 6, 2009 and February 2012, while Kohberger was a teenager, he allegedly made 118 posts on the forum under the name XR. January 2011, he allegedly wrote, I have had VS, visual snow, since September 21st of 2009. Since then, I have changed, mainly from anxiety and sense of derealization and hopelessness. In April 2011, in a thread by another user about possible benefits of visual snow syndrome, Kohberger wrote, I have become very deep and determined on goals. It made me smarter. Kohberger wrote in May 2011 that he has depression, no interest in activity, constant thoughts of suicide, crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, anxiety, poor self-image, poor social skills. Now, this is just a month later, from April to May, how his mood switched downward. Poor social skills, no emotion, the post concluded. When I get home, I am mean to my family. This started when VS did. I felt no emotion, and along with the depersonalization, I can say and do whatever I want with little remorse. A few months later, in July of 2011, Kohberger allegedly wrote, I have had this horrible depersonalization going in my life for almost 2 years. I often find myself making simple human interactions, but it is as if I am playing a role-playing game. As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It's like I am looking at a video game, but less I am blank. I have no opinion, I have no emotion, I have nothing. Kohberger's alleged last post was on February 20th, 2012. This is the following year. The post said, I have just accepted my visual snow finally. I don't even feel the need to stay away from the forum. It doesn't scare me anymore. Anyone else come to terms? I feel like coming to terms could be a bad thing, though, if I'm saying this correctly, Kohberger. A person who knew Kohberger at the time of the post told ABC News he had seen the post and was extremely confident they were Kohberger's, citing Kohberger's complaints at the time about his issues with visual snow syndrome, as well as a reference in the post to living in a house with mold problems. Kohberger is accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in an off-campus home in the early hours of November 13th. The shocking murders has garnered national interest. As police searched for a suspect, Kohberger was arrested on December 30th. Kohberger was a PhD student in Washington State University's Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology at the time of the murders. Washington State is just 10 miles from the University of Idaho. None of the posts viewed by ABC News suggested Kohberger's alleged illness made him prone to violence. Experts caution that people with mental illness are no more likely to be violent than anybody else. In fact, they are 10 times more likely to be the victim of a violent crime. But in this case, police say Kohberger is their main suspect. Kohberger faces first-degree murder and burglary charges. He has not yet entered a plea. ABC News is the source. Now, he claims to know about having this disorder. I'm going to go back. Saying since 21st of 2009, I've had this visual snow. So I do not know if he's just claiming a disorder or he has been diagnosed. But nonetheless, he is allegedly linked to these posts, 118 of them. A very depressed person, downward person, unemotional person. And if indeed he is the culprit of these brutal crimes that happened in Moscow, Idaho, I would say he proved the world right, that he has no empathy. Source number 3, New York Post. This was just uploaded at 6:02 p.m. this evening. Idaho suspect Bryan Kohberger repeatedly messaged victim weeks before murders, report. Accused University of Idaho killer Bryan Kohberger slid into one of the girl's direct messages on Instagram just weeks before the 4 students were killed in their beds, the report said Tuesday. An Instagram account that belonged to Kohberger repeatedly sent Instagram messages to one of the college students found dead, but she never returned his advances. An investigator close to the case told People. He slid into one of the girl's DMs several times, but she didn't respond, the anonymous source said. Basically, it was just him saying, hey, how are you? But he did it again and again. The messages were reportedly sent in October. University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin were found stabbed to death in their off-campus house November 13th. The source did not disclose which of the girls Kohberger messaged. The suspect followed accounts for all 3 on the social media platform. The messages from Kohberger's account were sent around the time that detectives claimed the suspect was stalking the victims. His cell phone data pinged in the same location as the 4 students in the weeks before the murders. Kohberger, who was pursuing a criminology doctorate at Washington State University, 10 miles from the University of Idaho, as most of you know, has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and a count of felony burglary in the gruesome quadruple homicide. Authorities aren't completely sure why the victim didn't respond to Kohberger's repeated messages, but said it could be simply because she hadn't noticed them. She may not have seen them because they went into message requests, the source said, implying that the victim didn't follow Kohberger back on Instagram. We're still trying to determine how aware the victims were of his existence. Very interesting information, and I've heard this in the past week or so, but I do not report on anything without a source. And so, still, this is just somebody's version that's anonymous. So if there's a gag order, I'm going to say this. Who is this person that's saying he followed the girls on IG and messaged one of them? And if indeed true, which girl did he message? How did he even come to find them on IG? Because naturally, like Facebook, you get suggestions of people to friend friend, and follow. Thank you, Constance. You get suggestions through Facebook naturally. And also when you meet people on other apps, such as date sites or other places, and you put their phone number into your contacts, this is some creepy stuff that goes on with these apps. All of a sudden, they will come up as a suggestion. This is the weirdest thing. You can meet somebody on another app. They give you their phone number. You put it into your contacts. You can best believe within 2 weeks, their social media platform, if they have one, will pop up as a suggestion. Very weird. And as you know, these apps will ask you if you want to link profiles from one status to the other. IG will ask you, do you want to link your Facebook profile with it? So that way, if you like post a picture, it'll go to both sites at the same time. It's up to your choosing. But nonetheless, I'm curious if this information is accurate. How did he come to find the girls? Very, very curious to how he found the girls. Is it as what I said? They just came up in suggestions. The faces popped up because it happens in Facebook and IG. And if this is official, I don't think the police department will be very pleased, or the FBI, that an official is leaking out this information of which girl it is. We're also going to talk about, in my last source, the sealing of the apartment, the warrant. Some could say it's possible information that came from Moscow in looking for the suspect. So when they got information that he was the guy, they wanted to make sure nothing got out to the public, especially with all the rumors and gossiping pertaining to this crime and other crimes. But I've heard a lot of experts say still a strange move, the sealing of the warrant pertaining to his apartment. But I don't know if it's in conjunction to the fact that there is a gag order and certain things have not been released to the public naturally because it's still an ongoing investigation. Could that be the reason? Information has not come out about what was actually retrieved from his apartment. Was there an imminent threat from items, information, data in his apartment that could affect the general public? We will chop that up. One moment, please. Welcome to the phone. Thank you for joining me. The next commentary is by Megan Kelly. This is my last source for this evening pertaining to Bryan C. Kohberger. The possibility of a co-defendant in the Idaho College murders. Did Bryan have help? Did anyone aid him, conspire with him, help him kill the young people at 1122 King Road? because this goes back to the information about the sealing of the warrant of his apartment. What was in the apartment that was dire, or was it actually nothing, just misinformation or miswriting of a warrant just for safety precautions? Thank you for joining me. If you are in the chat, new sub to this network, feel free to hit the link to give your opinion pertaining to this new information of him messaging the girls weeks before their deaths and the possibility that he had a co-conspirator in the murders. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to The Vault. This source is Megan Kelly. Thank you.
This was just handed to me during the break. I'm going to put all sorts of caveats on it. It's from our friends over the Daily Wire. It seems like a typo to me, not by the Daily Wire, but by Bryan Kohberger's lawyer. But I'll read you what they're reporting. The headline is, suspected Idaho killer requests documents related to, quote, co-defendant, who has never been mentioned by police. I'll read to you from the report. This week, Kohberger's public defender, Ann Taylor, filed motions requesting, quote, any written or recorded statements by a co-defendant and the substance of any relevant oral statement made by a co-defendant, whether before or after arrest in response to interrogation by any person known by the co-defendant to be a peace officer or agent of the prosecuting attorney, etc. Okay, and then, yeah, and as you know, that this particular defendant previously asked members of law enforcement if they had arrested anyone else in connection with this crime. I gotta say, this sounds like a typo, like a cut and paste by a busy public defender. But what do you think, Mark?
Well, I was just going to say, normally I would say in a vacuum, I would agree with you. I'd say it's a boilerplate discovery request, cut and paste, as you say, that went out there. However, put this next to, and this is why I'm fascinated, I want to see what Marcia has to say about this. There was a sealing order on a search warrant, and the sealing order had language that I have frankly never seen, or I can't remember ever having seen, which was part of it was they did not want law enforcement to be exposed to threats or intimidation and expose the investigation. Now, exposing the investigation I've come across a zillion times. That's standard operating procedure. Threats to law enforcement leads me to believe that there is something that apparently they missed, or a threat that they missed, or didn't, or got out in front of their skis. Remember, the officers had said, we're 100% certain this is the guy, nobody else. I think there is a suspicion that there is somebody else or someone else in the mix.
Well, Marcia, let me read what Mark's referring to, just to color it in for the audience. This is the search warrant for Bryan Kohberger's Washington State apartment, which has been temporarily sealed. That's been sealed. They haven't shared with us the search warrant. They've shared with us the affidavit that was in support of the arrest warrant, and it was very detailed. But for some reason, they're sealing the search warrant for the guy's apartment, which was requested on the same day as the arrest warrant, December 30th. But now we see why they're sealing it. They say, and this is going to remain sealed until March 1st, potentially earlier, but as of March 1st for now. This is what they said in asking for the sealing, prosecutors and police. Premature public disclosure of the details in this law enforcement investigation will create serious and imminent threat to effective law enforcement and could result in the premature end of this investigation, which could create a threat to public safety. What are your thoughts?
I think that there are many. What Mark has said is a potential, but let me tell you about some of the background in the development of this case. This case kind of went crazy on social media, and a lot of people were in there speculating about others that may be involved, and then out and out dogpiling these people with no evidence, nothing but speculation, imagination, and just putting together 2 + 2 and equaling 8. And so some very innocent people got dog piles for at least a few moments on the internet, and by moments that could be days, I'm not sure. So it has been going kind of in its way viral, and people looking for attention, which always happens on the internet, are coming out spewing all of these theories about who might have done it and why they did it. And that is a danger to any investigation. It's a danger to law enforcement because it encourages people to come forward who really have nothing relevant to say. It discourages people from coming forward who actually have something important to say. And it, of course, might subject law enforcement themselves to all kinds of threats and horrible responses on the internet. This has become now a force in our criminal justice system. It lurks around the edges, and sometimes it even invades to the middle. So we have a very serious problem with that. And I think that sealing would be an appropriate way of tamping it down. You just don't want to let out information that could be the way you catch a liar or the way you spot the truth. Those details are the way you test what witnesses say. And if you let those details out, you run a very real risk of skewing the investigation.
But Mark, don't you think, I mean, the warrant in support of affidavit in support of the arrest warrant is 18 pages long. We have so many details from that. Why allow that one out into the public domain, but not this one?
Well, I don't disagree with you at all. I was speculating, and that's all we do here, I guess, but I was speculating that the defense might have requested that remain sealed, but the cynic in me thinks that because the officers in the police department had taken so much heat, as Marcia describes it, that they wanted to show, and I believe it was the chief, had indicated that once it was unsealed, they would be vindicated, so to speak. And I suppose that's one explanation. I still think there's something else going on here. I suspect that there is another source profile of DNA or something else that was found at the scene. I just don't think, when you take a look at the timeline of this, and you know that there is a DoorDash driver there at 4 a.m., and you know that there is a spotting by DM, as they call the person in the affidavit, of somebody in the hallway. There's just, I believe that there is more here than meets the eye, and we're just not going to see it. And I think it's one of the reasons that the defense so readily said they would waive time until June on the speedy trial rights of the preliminary hearing.
Did you know your internet service provider knows?
Sorry about that. Very interesting information. So was it a typo, as Megan offered? But wouldn't you know not to put co in front of defendant when there's only one defendant allegedly? So is there more information pertaining to this crime? Or is this just preserving the integrity of an investigation and what was found in the apartment as so same as at 1122 King Road? It would be very disturbing to find out there is a co-conspirator or more that were involved in this crime. Because naturally there is a gag order. So no one is supposed to be speaking about the crime. No law official to any capacity. So as I brought you information earlier, someone allegedly, an official has given information about Kohberger allegedly being in one of the girls' DM and following the girls on IG. Last week, I did go to Kaylee's IG page, something I rarely do because I don't like just fumbling around in Facebook land and different things. But I said, let me go and see if I see anything suspicious as far as a weird, awkward profile. There were a few where naturally their accounts are private who were following her. What I would consider oddities, odd-looking profiles. But then you also have to count the fact that if indeed he was following the girls or looking at pages, he would probably delete any information on his phone as far as messaging. or likes or just delete IG altogether. But naturally, law officials and FBI have the capacity to go into your phone, your computer, and find what you've been looking at, searching, messaging. So it's all deep down in the drive. It won't matter if you erase it off your phone. It still can be found. Hello, Ms. Jackson. Thank you for joining me. Now, many of us are going to be curious to what's the object of his obsession. Kaylee, Maddie, or Zana? Very interesting. How did he even come across the page? Just popped up in his IG engine, just came across his phone. He went into IG, rambling around, saw these nice profiles that came up, because IG is just like Facebook. It'll let you know who's on there, and you can decide if you want to try to follow the person or not, if they have an open page, or send them a request. And as you hear in this commentary that I read to you, did the girls have notifications on? Did the object of his obsession have her notifications on? Because everybody does not have on notifications for their apps. So therefore, they won't get a ping or an immediate notice that somebody's messaging them or someone has put up a post. But then one would say, what's the purpose of you having these apps if you don't have the notifications on? Because there's no need in following an app if you're not wanting to see who's posting anything. But I've learned that with social media, such as Facebook, many people aren't really in tune to it. They have it, but they're not in it the way some people are, such as this box I'm on here. Traveling from page to page, channel to channel, app to app. There's some people that really, this is all they do. So one will wonder if this is what he was doing while trying to perfect the craft in the PhD program. He was too busy on social media scrolling, trying to like, follow, and message random strangers. Because let's be honest, you could tire yourself from doing anything, sitting in the same spot, standing in the same spot, scrolling social media till your fingers turn blue. How long can you do that? Minute for minute, hour for hour. Could it be that's all he was doing? He couldn't perfect the craft of his schoolwork. That's why he was tired coming into class disheveled looking, because he was staying up all day and night, scrolling social media sites and following people around. So not only was he just lurking by a cell phone computer, he was down on the ground. He was down on the ground. And they put him at that house 12 times. That's a lot of times to be going by somebody's home that you do not know. And I'm sure he will have a wonderful answer in court for why his phone pinged over there or off that tower, let's say. And with a 20-mile radius on the cell phone pings, towers rather, his lawyer will come up with amazing stories. Not story, but stories. He was over here. He was over there. He was shopping. He was looking at the stars. It's going to always be something. Trust me. She's going to do a bias move. She's going to come up with 1,000 reasons he was in Moscow or near Moscow for his phone to use that same tower 12 times. Even of the morning of returning. He just happened to what? Walk his goldfish? I don't know. I need to drive over here because the view's better than Pullman, Washington. You have more exciting things to do over here in Idaho. We see that Idaho's pretty wicked when you think of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. My. But that's the point. A deviant mind is everywhere, whether it's Idaho, California, New York, Louisiana, Florida, doesn't matter. The mind is tainted, no matter where you go. Which girl was the object of his obsession? Was he hoping to only find that girl alone in a room? Wasn't expecting to find two in the bed. And imagine seeing two in the bed, as I told you before in my last stream. He has some affection or anger for this female who has paid him no attention, didn't know him, allegedly. Now he goes into a house unannounced, breaking and entering to find two in the bed. And naturally, he has seen all of their photographs, because if he was following any of them, he saw the roommates' pictures and the girls were together and with other students and friends, family. So he knew who was in the house, put two and two together. So really, you need not even ask the question, why kill the second girl in the room? Well, because she was there. He had no idea two would be in the bed together, same room. How would he know that? Two for what? Easy access. Can't let one out. She's definitely a witness if he didn't intend to kill the two. See, we don't know because we don't know Kohberger. We know he's deviant. We don't know if he just went in to get the one, speculated the one he wanted was on the top floor. And that also goes to if indeed Kaylee was supposed to be leaving or left, let's say she's supposed to have already moved out, then he couldn't have been there for Kaylee. If that information is correct. This is why I don't report on things I don't have a receipt to. I don't do all that running around in circles. He said, she said. Bring a receipt that she fully moved out of the house, because then that will deduct who possibly his obsession was with, who was obsessed with. And as someone has said in the chat, and I've said it 1,000 times, who's going to continuously watch a house when the object of the obsession is no longer living there? So what are you saying? He switched obsessions? Well, I'll just like this one now. I'll obsess over this one now because this one's gone. So that's why you have to know for sure which is which. So will they see all of this in his data, cell phone? Did he leave a journal? Did he leave a manifesto? Did he write anything out publicly in his apartment, on the wall, on a bulletin board? Did he have any of their photographs visually out? Did he go old school with it? Took pictures, blew them up. Sick mind is capable of anything. Because you have to ask yourself, why would somebody stalk someone that doesn't live at that house? Wouldn't I be trying to find where they lived? Stay woke. Once you keep going to a house, you don't see the car. Ding, ding, ding. Uh-oh, they're not here. So was Kaylee Gonsalves the actual target? Object? Or was it the entire house? Going to get all of them. Her and her damn friends. So you have to think how the killer would think, because you don't know how he thinks. You know he's messed up, but you don't really know verbatim what ticked him off, what sent him over there, because you're talking about one extreme to the other. I can go in Facebook and IG right now and see a nice looking picture of a man and say, oh, he's handsome. look at his photographs if I'm able to. I can even message him just to see if he'll respond. But where is it going to go after that? What are my expectations of him? Hoping he'll respond, hoping he'll message me back, hoping he'll follow me. What? See, that's the object of this game, because this is a game. What were his expectations if indeed he was messaging one of the girls? What was he expecting her to do? Message him back, meet for coffee, conversate, video chats, all the options you have on the IG app. Same as Facebook. I'm sure there's a lot that he won't want out. Stay woke. Because not only will they be in that device and the computer, the drive, as I said, personal notes, things he was studying in school, things he was writing, that will all be entered into evidence, besides people chitter-chattering about who Kohberger is and was when they last knew him. And that's the one thing we don't like, is for people to talk about us, gossip about us. He likes this, he likes that, blah, 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 blah. Because I'm sure there's some things that's in those devices that aren't going to be so nice, if you know where I'm going. If there's anything that is sickly deviant, such as graphic porn, violent porn, bondage, torture, dismembering of people, animals, he wouldn't want that out. And how are you going to explain that to 12 members of a jury? Why you are not the guy. They've got the wrong guy, but you have all this deviant information on your computer, your phone. Who are you? Because as this public defender said back in Pennsylvania, he was really a nice guy. That's what you say about everybody. You don't even know him. You sat with him all of 5 minutes until he got extradited back to Idaho. This isn't in his repertoire. It's not his nature. You don't even know what his nature is. Lawyer talk. This ain't him. Well, it looks like it is. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, we know all about that. But how you live tells the story. The way your apartment or home is situated. What was inside of that apartment? Did he have furniture, a bed, blow-up mattress, or a real bed? Pillows, comforter. Secret things hidden under the mattress. Not so nice things. Things that boys and men don't want people to see. Sexual devices, harnesses, handcuffs, whips, chains. Let's go there. Pornography books, old school. What was in that apartment? What was he doing late night, making noise for one of the women to give conversation to a news agent, keeping her up? At least she has children. Now we can expect her to be in court testifying to the late night drilling sounds coming out of Kohberger's apartment. Kohberger, what were you doing in there? And you should know that he will get access to the internet some kind of way in that jail, because they always do. Due to the fact that this police department likes to give their inmates pizza parties, I should say that Kohberger will have a nice, comfortable cell, possibly with a comforter and goose down pillow, a laptop, an iPad, and some fuzzy slippers. Hell, why not? Did he have any other objects that he was hunting? Because due to the fact that this house had 5 women in it, Who's to say he had not been watching some other locales, other addresses? Because you're going to ask all those questions. One, how did he find the girls? Suggestion pop up in IG, saw them around, did some digging, followed them home from somewhere. What? Check mailboxes. What? Google the name. Name came up in a suggestion in IG. He became enamored. He started Googling the government name, and it brought 1122 King Road. And it also brought 1122 King Road for the other girls in the photographs. You see, you can't go anywhere. And once you use your government name on a platform, you are a moving target. That's why you don't do it. That's why you see a lot of people have crazy places on there. Where are you from? What city are you from? It'll say Beijing, Dubai. Because they feel like, hell, most of my friends, they know where the hell I'm from. I don't need to tell you where I'm from. You know I'm from New York, Chicago, Knoxville, Tennessee. So I don't need to put it on the Facebook account. This is where you make your mistake. Such as putting your government name in this YouTube chat. Stay woke. There's been Kohbergers in the chat before we even knew of Bryan Kohberger. Bring it to him, Queen, because they don't want to hear the truth. I've been seeing Bryan Kohbergers since I came to YouTube. Female versions at that. You see, as some experts have been saying, a psychopath is not necessarily a killer. A killer is not necessarily a psychopath. Stay woke now. So therefore, we are all equally in the running for becoming either one or both, whether you are studying psychology or not. Or did you hear what I said? Whether you are studying psychology, criminology or not, you are in the running to become a misfit because you are human. So some don't bank on him being in a PhD program, having a master's, bachelor's. That's just a title. He had issues before he ever went to college. And it's these issues that possibly led him to 1122 King Road. And also, I believe, Washington State. He came to Washington State for a reason. And I don't think it was the graduate program, if you get my drift. And know that you can follow people on social media sites from all over the world. So who's to say he wasn't following Gonsalves all the way in Pennsylvania? Checkmate. What about that? They say he started messaging in October. We'll go with that for now till we get more information when they go to court. And that's when we'll hear the whole low down, dirty deeds of when all this fascination, obsession started. If you'd like to join this discussion and you are in the chat commenting, please join me here. And if you also like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie129 Cash App, all stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. If you need to go back for any reference of information I've brought you, please go back to the beginning of this stream to get the said information of Kohberger messaging one of the girls before their gruesome murders, weeks beforehand. I believe it was October. Megyn Kelly speaks of the sealed warrant of his apartment. Was it a typo using the word co-defendant, or just them trying to preserve evidence because how out of hand this case became with the gossip and the trolling of people on the internet? I'm sure Jack is absolutely thrilled they have an arrest. And I also see he's set up an IG page for the dog he shared with Kaylee Gonsalves, Murphy. So Murphy will now become front and center of this saga. If only the dog could talk. Lord have mercy. How interesting. If the dog could talk, we'd probably know a whole lot about what happened November 13th. Thank you for joining me. There's some information I found also pertaining to him being shocked when he got arrested. I said, what in the world? Hold on one second. Kohberger was shocked that he was arrested. We're going to hear from the public defender from Pennsylvania who doesn't know a damn thing about Kohberger, just using lawyer talk because this is what they do, act as if they know their clients so well. This content was uploaded 22 hours ago. This is Mr. Cuomo with News Nation. Thank you for joining me. This is The Vault.
The man and in the context of the situation.
The man is an intelligent man, Bryan. He was easy to talk to. He was aware of the situation. Really, it was a great conversation that we had given the circumstances of everything involved.
You say that he told you he was shocked that he was arrested. How so and why?
I believe he was shocked by the moment that the police broke his door down, had guns in his face. He was unaware that that was going to happen. And he was really shocked by the arrest. He wasn't expecting it, obviously.
Now. That's not true. That is not true, sir. Kohberger knew he was being surveyed because he had a feeling once he got pulled over in Indiana 2 times. Because he went straight to Pennsylvania and vigorously cleaned his car inside and out. He's on surveillance, sir. He was free 1 month. He could have turned that car into a paper airplane in 1 month. Stop playing games. Painted the car, shipped the car off, pushed it in the river. But he stayed behind, number 1. Number 2, he finished his coursework at the university. He didn't pack up all his belongings, turn the keys into the landlord, didn't tell the school he wasn't coming back. Don't play with the queen. You're talking crazy people talk. But yet he gets to Pennsylvania and now he wants to clean his car. Ooh, don't leave out emptying trash at 4 a.m. because he loves the late morning, the reaping hour. Putting trash into neighbors' bins. How suspicious is that? What person travels this long way, 2-3 days of driving, to be up at 4 a.m. dumping trash in other people's dumpsters? Who does that time of morning? We all can do some weird OCD stuff, but I think you know better, sir. You want me to believe mommy and daddy don't have adequate trash bins at their address? You want me to say he's so OCD he had to get up in the wee hour and put on surgical gloves? This takes you back to 1122 King Road. Role play. He likes the nightlife. He likes lurking about. He likes surgical gloves. Stay woke. He's up, lurking. This is why I told you, you don't really know what he's been doing since he touched down on Washington soil. But what he did in Pennsylvania and what he allegedly is accused of in Moscow, Idaho, can give you a bullseye view of who Kohberger really is. He's a reaper. He's a reaper. You have no reason to wear gloves to empty trash to your own dumpster. Stop playing. That's your house. You're not in public. Because if that's the case, you're going to be wearing gloves around your house all the time. You want me to believe he went into school wearing gloves? He sat in the classroom with gloves on. He graded papers with gloves on. Everywhere he went, he wore gloves. Bring a receipt. Nobody has any reason to put on gloves to empty their own trash. You're going from your house to the trash bin. Nobody's touching the trash bin but you and the occupants in your house. So that's why I said, if you feel that sickly, obsessive, then you're going to be wearing gloves 24 hours a day, even while you sleep. Let's finish this commentary.
To be clear, you drafted a statement with and for your then client, the accused, in which he said, "I will be exonerated." Those were not your words, but do you agree with his assessment?
I agree. That's what he had said to me, that he believed that he would be exonerated, which I believed implicitly that he was innocent of the crimes.
Now that is we're both lawyers. You're just a better one.
I don't know about that.
I do. Your zealous representation responsibility is to do everything you can to advance his cause under law. That's zealous representation. You do not have to say you believe he is innocent. You can say he's not guilty of the charges. They can't make the case. I think that they're speaking out of school. I don't think they have what they think. There's a whole range of qualifying statements. But innocent is something else. Innocent is that you believe he did not do this. Do I have it accurate?
Well, I don't want to put those words in my mouth. He said he was eager to be exonerated, which I believed him to mean that he believed he was innocent. I wasn't judging the case at that point.
Exonerated. That's a word usually used by suspects who've already been convicted of a crimes. So possibly Kohberger is speaking subconsciously, which that is what people do sometimes. They don't think before speaking. I will be exonerated. Well, you haven't even given a plea yet. You haven't given a plea. They haven't picked a jury. And you haven't been convicted. So exonerated of what exactly? I'm just curious. Because that's usually when we hear that word exonerated, is from people who are already convicted of the crime. So are you talking out loud, Kohberger? Doing what you've been doing. Effing up. Because you did not plan this crime thoroughly. You obsessed and obsessed and obsessed and stalked and stalked and stalked and broke in, killed these kids, exited, stayed free for all of a month, but you was on the radar 2 weeks after killing the kids. They just was slow about getting your damn DNA. Checkmate. And naturally, they had to wait till they got something back from the lab to compare. And you were that somebody. Just a little later than sooner. But you messed up because you were too eager to kill and you didn't plan it thoroughly. Such as stalking on your devices, taking your car to the crime scene so many times, returning to the crime scene, car seen on surveillance. I got a feeling it's going to be way more than what they've revealed in the affidavits. That's just to secure the warrant. I believe there's going to be way more than fuzzy eyebrows, CCTV footage. I won't doubt there's somebody that's actually seen you sitting in your car behind that house, in front of that house, down the street, riding around in circles. How much you want to bet? News Nation is the source.
He was innocent. I wasn't judging
yes,
the
of course.
case at that point in time. I didn't have the affidavit of probable cause. I knew none of the facts, and I didn't ask Bryan about any of the facts or circumstances surrounding the case either.
Okay, that is very important, and I apologize because I have been slapping you around for making such a heady assessment so early in the case. But now that we put out the statement and you're saying, no, this is what he told you, and that was your takeaway about how he felt about his own situation. Very different.
Well, Cuomo, you are entitled to your opinion. That's why you're grown. In the end, he only knew him of 5 seconds. So it doesn't really matter what he told him. That's what he's supposed to tell him. I didn't do it. They got the wrong person. I'm shocked. I'm stunned. Wasn't me. What's he supposed to tell him? Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. I killed those kids. That's my car. I was there 12 times or more, stalking the kids. Come on now. You're saying what most lawyers say about their clients. And it's really foolish to even say anything when you just sat down and said hello. That's all you said to him is, hey, how you doing? My name is such and such. That's not knowing your client. And I think, like most public defenders and defense attorneys, when these people have their foot in the trap, because you look at the evidence and you can say to yourself, yeah, he did it, she did it, but you would never tell him or her that. And I'm sure every day you wake up knowing Kohberger did this, but your job is to defend people who are accused of heinous crimes. So of course you're going to say, he said this to me, he didn't do it. Give me a break.
Very different. I apologize for any other inference. I'm glad we cleared it up. Now, once you saw the affidavit, what do you think now?
I said from the beginning, I read it 4 times through before I think I got most of it soaked in. I felt that it was a strong circumstantial case that's likely to possibly get stronger based upon other evidence that would suspect.
Well, shut up.
Certainly holes. Whether or not the prosecution can close those holes.
I like this guy. He's funny. Very circumstantial case, and I'm sure it's going to get stronger. You don't say. Well, Angela says the same thing. And she's not a defense attorney because Queen has lived and she knows better. She knows that as time goes by, people decide to come out their funk and start talking. Start revealing things. Isn't that amazing how people will wait and sit on information all of day 1, month 1, 2 months, 5 years, and they'll start telling things. See, this is why I keep trying to tell people, there's always people that know things. And they didn't have to directly hear it from the killers. It's because they watched, they saw, they heard. They just kept quiet. And we have learned that with so many true crime stories. The killer is going to want to talk because Kohberger has definitely let these people at the apartment complex know he was so interested in the case. As he told one person, crime of passion, he believes, was the motive. That's an odd thing to say coming from a guy, crime of passion. But yet he went to school and he was stoic, like a zombie. Too scared to talk in class. Why, Kohberger, tell us why you were quiet in class, but eager to talk about the crimes to your neighbors of all people. You are not very bright. Queen's going to say that. You're possibly the dumbest criminal I've seen thus far. Go to work stoic with your tie, jacket, and shirt on. Scared to say anything, but then when you come out of there, you got loose lips. And we know about loose lips. They sink what? Yeah, that part. All right, everybody, let me stop.
But there's certainly holes. Whether or not the prosecution can close those holes is another story for another day.
What is your biggest concern?
I think the biggest concern is obviously his DNA on the sheath of the knife that was found in the room next to the Mogan body.
We have to know what kind of DNA it is because there's a suggestion that goes like this, that it wasn't him, it was somebody he knew who he was with. Without violating, or this would only help his cause, do you have any reason to believe that it could have been somebody else? That he wasn't alone? That the man who was shot in the shootout in Washington State University, the security guard, is he relevant?
Wow.
I don't have any knowledge of another person being involved. Again, I never asked Bryan any of the facts and circumstances surrounding the case. I made that clear from the moment I sat down with him that I was simply there to represent him for the extradition proceedings and that his attorney in Idaho would really be taking the case over and would want to hear his story first.
Is it unusual, even with that admonition, that people don't tell you why they're innocent and why they didn't do this, and here's what's wrong with this situation, help me?
It was certainly a unique situation for me. I've never had it like this quite before, where such serious charges an individual was facing. But I really wanted to make sure that he understood that I didn't want to know about the facts and circumstances. And I did cut him off several times before he was able to tell me anything about the case.
Wow. Interesting.
He asked when he was arrested, we are told, has anyone else been arrested?
Why would you cut him off? I'm curious. Did you cut him off because you knew you weren't going to be representing him because he was eager to be exonerated? So you felt like, now, Bryan, don't say anything else now because I'm not going to be representing you. I'm kind of wondering if you got scared of what Bryan may have slipped up and said, because we know that he chooses when to talk and speak. He's proven that. And you just said, tell you about the case. Well, what could he tell you if he's innocent? Help me understand. This is why you always got to listen to the information. What could he tell you? He's just a PhD student trying to get a PhD, a doctorate. He can't tell you anything. He's not the killer. You just told on yourself right there, sir. He wanted to tell me about the case, but I stopped him. Because let's be truthful. There's nothing that Kohberger could tell you if he hasn't done anything. You just told on Kohberger. You shouldn't even said that. He wanted to keep talking. Talk about what? He's innocent. So what did you think he was going to tell you? We're going to get back to that. Let's finish this. This is very interesting.
When he was arrested, we are told, has anyone else been arrested? Does that sound right to you?
That's my understanding of what's out there. When I spoke to Bryan about what he said to the police, and he did speak to police for approximately 5 to 15 minutes before invoking his Miranda rights, he couldn't recall what he had actually said to them.
Did his disposition, his demeanor to you
Wow.
play as someone who was or was not connected to what happened?
I don't really want to judge that. I treat my clients with respect and build a rapport with them, even for the short period of time that I was speaking with Bryan. I wanted his trust for that short period of time so he understood what I was trying to do for him. I thought was in his best interest. I still believe what I'm doing for him even now is in his best interest. So I really wanted to build that rapport, and I don't question things like that. Especially
Counselor, I appreciate it.
The probable cause.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to...
You're welcome. Thank you for the information. I've got to dwell on this now. We're going to get to that shootout in a minute because I haven't dwelled on that either. That was mentioned in one of the traffic stops with Kohberger and his father to one of the guys, troopers or sheriff officers. Thought that was interesting that was even brought up. But I always tell people to always pay attention to the perpetrator, alleged suspect, the things that they mention and the things that they don't. Because Kohberger was warning an ear, stay woke. He goes to school, he doesn't talk. He comes out of the schoolhouse, he's a walkie-talkie. He goes to Pennsylvania, halfway across the country, to be vigorously cleaning a car. Yet he tells this guy, "Oh, I'm shocked that I was arrested." You hear this guy saying he feels like what he's saying to the public is in the best interest. What do you mean the best interest? You're not representing him. So what are you talking about? And the fact that you said he wanted to keep talking about the case. Well, what is there to talk about? I'm going to say it again. There's nothing to say. And most people who stay in trouble with the law, they know not to talk to a public defender or anybody. They just say, "I don't know nothing about it." Maybe we should take you to the hood. And take you to some seasoned criminals that wouldn't even be talking to the damn lawyers. They hire them and say the same thing. "I don't know what you're talking about. Wasn't me." Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to my cell and get some sleep. The fact that he says he doesn't remember what he told the detectives. What? So is this the visual snow he was talking about many years ago? He's in a funk, in a fog. So one day he's lucid, the next day he doesn't know. It's like watching a bad TV situation. The picture isn't clear. Kind of like how the TV used to go off back in the 70s. When the program ended, there was snow and that static noise on the TV. Is that what you're saying, sir? He doesn't remember what he told the police. So is this in reference to the, did you arrest anybody else? Sorry I didn't bring that up earlier when Megan was giving her commentary, Ms. Kelly, about a second suspect. People are going to wonder, because many experts who practice law found it strange, the sealing of the warrant to the apartment. Now, as Megan said, it could be a typo by his lawyer, which I find it very strange, because I think a lawyer knows a defendant versus a co-defendant. That's strange. So here we have a person who wants to exonerate himself, but hasn't gone to court. Doesn't remember what he told the police. Asks if somebody else has been arrested. Cuomo brings up this Washington State shootout business. Same thing that was mentioned in the car in Indiana by the suspect and his father to one of the law officials. And you're saying that what you're doing at the moment is in the best interest of somebody that you're not even defending. Hell, I'm confused. Or am I? Or is it you want attention too? What about the person in the shootout? What actually happened? So maybe we should do a little digging to see what actually happened. Is that related to this case? Because sometimes people will mention things, as I said, the subconscious is talking and you're not thinking. And we know that Kohberger made many mistakes in committing these crimes. Perhaps he was telling on himself as well with this shootout scenario. Because why mention it? You just slaughtered 4 people brutally, and you have the audacity to bring up what happened back in Washington. Why? You're a damn killer. So what do you look like talking about somebody else being murdered or somebody else shooting somebody with a gun? I find that very interesting now that I sit and digress and listen to everything properly. Because the thing about Queen, I don't jump on everything because somebody else says it or mentions it. I let it marinate for a spell. So we're going to now go back in time and see what we can find pertaining to this. Very interesting. Because I don't hear much about it. Why is that? KREM2 is the source. Let's see what they have to say. This was uploaded 1 month ago. Thank you for joining me. You're now listening to The Vault.
Breaking news this morning, a lot to get to. The big story right now is what's happening in Pullman. This morning, we've learned that a man is dead after a standoff next to WSU's campus. Channing Curtis is in Pullman right now. Channing, what information do you have for us this morning?
Yeah, so we actually just heard from the Pullman chief of police literally just moments ago, who gave us a slight update on the situation. So now we did learn that around 8:37 last night, police received a phone call from actually this apartment complex right behind us. And they didn't tell us who called, but we do know that a man in his 30s was threatening to harm his roommates. So at that time, police did respond. They were able to get those 2 roommates out safely. We're told that they're doing fine at this time, but we're also told that a member of the SWAT unit did shoot and kill that 30-year-old suspect who was threatening to harm his roommates. Now, again, police have told us that this is the early stages of the investigation, so they are continuing to work. And again, this is a very active scene behind me right now. While we just got here at this area, we saw another couple of police cars who pulled up from Pullman Police.
And let me explain to you, when you watch the video, she will pan the camera around, because it's nighttime, right at where she pans the camera is Washington State University. It's on a brick wall. The apartments are like directly across the street. You can just walk across the street to the campus. So one would assume these apartments are for students. Could they be grad students? Come on with it, Queen. So now we have to ask the second question. What are the name of the apartments where the shootout took place? Is it the same name as the ones that Kohberger stayed in? All right.
Police, but we're also told that Washington State police are actually on their way as well. They're the ones who actually have to clear this scene. As you can see, there's still a lot of crime tape, and this section of the street right near Stadium Way is still closed off. Traffic is being slightly rerouted.
Stadium Way.
Impacting traffic in the area just yet. There's just a few lanes that are closed, and people are taking this slight detour.
Let me write that down.
So now we're going to continue gathering more information for you all and try and speak to some students here who are impacted because, of course, this is late in the semester. I'm sure a lot of people have finals and those late classes to get to, or early classes rather, to get to this morning. So we're going to continue gathering the latest information, and we'll share that with you all morning long here on Up with Craig.
All right, Channing Curtis reporting live in Pullman for us.
You know what's so interesting? When you go back to the information pertaining to, I believe, the affidavit and this case, and when they found the car, the bolo for the car, now listen to me carefully. When you go back to the affidavit, when they're describing the information they got about the car, I believe it was the 25th and the 29th. Stadium Way was mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, in that information. Latow Apartments, so it's different. His was what? Something Steptoe Apartments. Curious. Latow. Let me see. Yes, his apartments are named something else. Steptoe or something, I believe. Very interesting. But his apartment, I think, is near that Stadium Way because they mentioned that. Let's play something else. Who knows? We don't know these people. Yeah, Steptoe. So it's 2 different names, Steptoe and Latow. Well, we're going to still dig because that's what I do. Fox 13 Seattle is the source.
Following some breaking news out of Lacey this morning, detectives are investigating right now after a person was found dead in an apartment complex.
And Fox 13's Dan Griffin is on the scene with more on this. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, good morning to you both. We know that Thurston County Sheriff's deputies have been waiting for a search warrant to get into the apartment involved. We've seen some movement there, so I'm not sure if they've been able to get that at this point. But You can see here right now, this is the scene. A number of deputies here. It's about 2 this morning. They got a call for a welfare check at Copperwood Apartments just outside of Lacey. Dispatch got a call from a concerned family member in Pierce County after a man in his 20s who was in a relationship with a woman who lived here.
Oh, that's something else. Sorry about that. Good Lord, that was a month ago too. Oh, that's Seattle. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Get ready to say, my goodness. What kind of world going on here? Here's this one. Let me try this one.
From Pullman Police, who explained to us, gave us a little bit more of a timeline of events as far as what happened here. So they told us around 8:37 last night, they received a phone call from some people who lived in an apartment complex not too far from where we are. Right now, we're at Stadium in Maine here, just right across from WSU's campus.
Stadium in Maine.
At that time, they received a phone call from residents at that apartment saying that that one of the people in that apartment was threatening to harm and kill some of their other roommates.
Wow.
Now, there were 2 other roommates that were in the apartment at that time. Police were able to get them out safely. We're told that they're doing fine. But that 30-year-old suspect who made those threats, the male in his 30s, we are told that officers did shoot and kill him. Now, we were able again to speak to the chief of police in Pullman, and here's a little bit about what he had to say about the situation.
His escalating behavior and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment.
Now, there is still a heavy police presence here in the area. Part of the street right here is blocked off. It's just a few lanes that are closed, so it's very easy to get around. There's also heavy police presence directly behind me with both officers in their uniforms and some out of uniform as well. We also spoke to some of the businesses here in the area who said they really weren't even notified of the situation. One of the women that I talked to at this coffee shop right here, Zoe's, who actually told me that the only reason she was notified was just because her significant other actually happens to attend the school and they got the WSU notification. But several others of their staff members had no idea what was going on this morning when they came into work. So it's lucky for them that they were actually able to get in and get safely. Now, WSU, since this has all happened, has issued an all clear for students. Students are allowed to now return back to classes, especially on a day like today when many students have finals. That's incredibly important. However, again, this area is still blocked off. There is crimes tape around, and this is still an active investigation. We're also told that WSP is going to be the ones taking over this investigation, and until they arrive and are able to clear the scene, this crime scene will remain active. We'll continue gathering more information here in Pullman. I'm Channing Curtis for Crime 2 News. Tim, I'll send things back to you in the studio.
Yeah, Channing, I actually just spoke to a mother. Her son goes to WSU and actually lives in those apartments there, and they were waiting to take a bus to be transferred to Beasley Coliseum because that sounds like where students were being taken to shelter in place. What did you see at Beasley Coliseum when you drove by? Are people still at the Coliseum? Are they still staying there? What's the latest there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. Actually, we did go and drive by Beasley Coliseum several times, just kind of made the rounds. It was still dark when we did that. There was, at that time, nobody was in the Coliseum anymore. As far as we know, that those students have been cleared from the Coliseum.
All right, Channing Curtis reporting live in Pullman for us. Thank you so much.
All right, that's Crim 2, everybody. They also have been reporting on the Idaho 4 murders. Just trying to bring any information that could be in relations to the warrant. Why did this guy threaten his roommates? Said they have several standoffs in this area past 2 months. When you go into YouTube Q, another incident comes up, and then you have the one where the guy and the girl had an altercation. Security guy, what was going on with him? What was going on with this guy? Did he know Kohberger? Know of him? Curious. One second. Doing a little research. You never know. Just interesting how all this is happening while this one's leaving Washington. And then this one's shooting his roommates. Could be nothing. Could be just coincidence. Small town with a lot of drama. Still strange to me. Small town's got that much going on. 26,000 people. See if they have an update, any information. See if I can find the latest one. December 22nd. Looks like the last one I see. Let me read this one here. This was updated the 22nd. Oh, Lord. And he's older than 30. The Whitman County Coroner's Office have identified the man that was killed during the SWAT standoff near WSU last week. 36-year-old Brent Kopaka was killed by law enforcement after threatening to kill his roommates before barricading himself inside his apartment and shooting out his window. A SWAT standoff in Pullman on Thursday that ended with the police killing a 30-year-old man is not believed to be connected to the Idaho murders, it says, okay, according to the Washington State Patrol. Okay. Pullman Police Department alleged the suspect, who hasn't been identified yet, was threatening to kill his roommates near the Washington State University campus. The roommates and other people in the apartment were safely evacuated to Beasley Coliseum. PPD said the suspect started firing outside the apartment window, which prompted police to fire back. It's very crazy. The name of the officer who shot the suspect has not been released. Nobody else was injured, and the Palouse area law enforcement critical incident response team is investigating. So they're saying it has nothing to do with Idaho. It's interesting that they would make sure to bring that up. 30-year-old man was threatening to kill his roommates. I guess it's the same one that's actually 39. I'd like to know, why was he threatening to shoot them? I'm strange, they're not saying. After unsuccessful negotiations, his escalating behavior and the continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team, PPD said. They went under shelter alert to Washington State December 15th due to a SWAT standoff near the campus. Police didn't believe there was a threat to the public, but put the alert in place so students would stop looking out their windows. Okay. Barricaded himself inside. This is strange. Nobody else injured in the shooting. This was December 15th. I don't know. Yeah, very weird. Because what I find interesting, there's no update to tell us what happened. Were they arguing about something? Brent Lee Kopaka. Brent Lee Kopaka's family said he battled PTSD for 16 years before the fatal incident. Okay, this is a little bit more. Thank God. This happened in the 1000 block of Southeast Latta Street, Lata Street, however you pronounce it, Lata Street in Pullman, December 14th. He was threatening to kill his roommates. Kopaka, 36, barricaded himself inside his apartment. Police tried to speak with him. As crisis negotiators tried to make contact, he began firing from his apartment, in which the building residents were evacuated. Okay, as I said, unsuccessful negotiations. Felt there was a threat to the public. He was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. He was found deceased when they cleared their apartment. Manner of death, homicide by a gunshot wound, says coroner Annie Pillars. He had a traumatic brain injury sustained in combat in Afghanistan, which led to a 16-year ongoing battle with severe PTSD, his obituary states. And in that picture, you will see him in his military garb. Very sad, really. Jesus. Brent Lee Kopaka. Kopaka served in the U.S. Army between 2005 and 2009. They said he fought a courageous battle against PTSD for 16 years, but in the end, he couldn't break free. Just bringing you the latest. And once again, they say the proximity of the Pullman incident to U of I led to some concern among locals and speculation that the two events could be related. But Pullman authorities have said they do not believe there is any connection. The two typically quiet college towns have been on edge since November 13th, quadruple homicide. If you need verification for this information, Fox News is the source. So I see why no one dwelled on this story pertaining to this shootout. It's because naturally they've done some vetting inside to see if he had any dealings with Kohberger, I'm sure, and they didn't find anything. Very interesting still. Hello, Hippie. Thank you for joining me. Yes, they said no connection. Well, maybe his family came forward, and said, PTSD, which we already know that doesn't mean anything just because somebody says you're not well. But yeah, right away, nothing. Could just be that. He's served in the military, had issues. Something popped off that day in the apartment. Who knows? They could have been arguing about somebody throwing the towel over the rack. Who knows? But nonetheless, very interesting still. Kohberger mentioning it, he and the father in that car that day. And I just think it's interesting that you would even be talking about crime when you yourself just murdered 4 kids a month beforehand. That's expected. Well, I don't have much else to bring you. Different networks are still talking about the subject matter, of course, the affidavit and the evidence against Kohberger. And as I brought you information during this live stream, I brought you someone who has anonymously been giving information that one of the girls had been stalked by Kohberger weeks before the murders back in October. So I don't know if he started following the girls in October, but he reached out to one of them through the IG platform. She never responded. I do find it interesting that someone would repeat that. That's in law enforcement because nobody's supposed to be talking and speaking of the case. So that may not sit very well with law enforcement and FBI. Also, did he have a helper? Because many people are questioning the sealing of the warrant to his apartment and the details. Did he have a sidekick, co-conspirator, cohort? I do not know. And as I said, it would be very devastating to find out that he had a sidekick because there are people who work in groups in unison. We've seen this in many crimes that people had a cohort. And it's even worse when you find somebody wanting to help you sexually assault or murder someone or molest someone or a child. But you have deviant minds. In your mind, you're saying, well, it's already bad. One person thinks this way. How do you go out and find somebody else? But they have underground groups and underground websites where people seek out people with like minds. And some of those people might be on there just, pushing the envelope just to see how sick people are. But I wouldn't even engage in that type of behavior. I wouldn't go on a website saying, yeah, I want to chop somebody up. I need a victim, blah, blah, blah. Because I was watching a documentary the other night about some gay foreign men in Canada being murdered. Very interesting documentary. I believe it's on Hulu. And when they finally found this older white man and thought he was a suspect, it wasn't even just so stupid. He was just making up stuff, allegedly, to draw people in. So see, you have sick people out here, saying, hey, I want to kill you. Will you be my victim? No, I take it back. One of the guys who responded was a young person. He responded saying he was going to be his victim. He's going to let him chop him up. But then when the police found him and talked to him, he said, oh, no, I wasn't going to go through with it. So it's like, well, why would you even say something like that on the internet? You're telling the police, oh, no, I was never going to meet with him. Oh, no, I was never going to let him hack me into tiny pieces. But the point is, why are you engaging in that type of talk on the internet? What type of sanity is that? You shouldn't even be on the internet saying anything to anybody. Why would you even respond? You're going to go in some chat room where somebody's talking about wanting a victim. Basically, summoning somebody to kill themselves. And that's what the perpetrator's saying. Hey, anybody out there that don't care about living, I want you to come meet with me so I can chop you up and eat you. And you would stupidly respond saying, oh yeah, I want to get with you. What day can we meet? This is why, the world is off. So that's why they tell you don't even venture in those rooms. Don't venture to the dark web talking with people about sadism, cannibalism, serial killing, being a victim, being a cohort. You're going to find yourself with some people with suits standing outside your damn door. And then you're standing there trying to explain to some FBI agents why the hell you're on the dark web in the first place, responding and or soliciting people. That still means there's something wrong with you. Because you can sit up and say all day, oh, it's just a joke. I was just playing. I was just wanting to see how far they was going to try to go with it. And it still means there's something wrong with you, because that means you don't have anything better to do with your time than slough off with sick people trying to get them aroused. Or maybe you're getting your own self aroused. You just don't want to admit that you are ill and you're sick. Because you can't explain that to somebody sane. See, that's the behavior of children. That's stuff a child would do. Hey, I just was, calling them up on the phone, playing pranks. We were bored. That's how people end up dead. That's stuff kids do. Play pranks on phones, call people, hang up, say dirty stuff to them, egg their house. But you don't know how things can turn out. Kind of like an urban legend. You sit up and play mind games on telephones, and then the person you find just so happens to be crazy, and they hunt you down and kill you. That's why you don't play those type of mind games, because you don't know people. And this is sick to know Kohberger was trolling social media platforms and became fixated on one of the girls, or possibly all, because they say he followed all the girls. So what you have to ask yourself is this question, because this wasn't mentioned in the article that I brought you earlier. The source is saying he reached out to one of the objects weeks before the murders. She did not respond. He also followed the other girls' social media pages. So that means they have proof that he hit the follow button and possibly liked photos. This is where it gets dicey, because I didn't mention this because it just hit my brain cells. Which girls did he actually follow? Follow me carefully now. Did he follow all the ones he murdered, or all the girls in the house? Ting. See, there's no way around this subject, no matter if you want to believe somebody else is involved or not. Everything still comes back to them damn surviving girls. I don't care how you word it. Because that's what we're going to want to know now, since somebody decided to be a hummingbird and say, oh, he was messaging one of the girls and following all of them on IG. All of whom? All of the dead girls, or all of the girls in the house? So did he follow all of the girls in the house? Because if he followed all of the girls, why didn't he kill the other two? And it's not to say they don't deserve to live, but anybody with sense, especially the parents, they're going to wonder this. Why my child? Why did he kill my kid? Why did you kill my kid? Was my child the target and the other ones were just there in the way? Somebody got up, heard something, you stabbed them, but you left the other two alive. Because this is where there's a problem. Because I've always said this at the beginning of the story, to this nonsense, before we even knew who the killer was. Who was the target Did he kill the others because they got in the way? And if he was stalking them, he would have known all of them lived in the house. So this makes the story even more grainy. Put it together. If you are following just the 3, you still knew that 2 others lived there. So if you're only messaging 1, are we supposed to believe he just killed the other people because they were in the way visually? What's the truth? Did he follow the 3 decedents and the 2 that are living? Because what is going to be fucked up, excuse my language, we find out he followed all of the girls and deliberately spared the 2. But Kohberger is never going to tell you if he did or not, because he's going to plead innocent. He's going to plead innocent. And he is never going to tell you, yeah, I killed the 3 for whatever reason, and I spared the 2 because I chose to, because I have a God complex. I did what I wanted to do. So this is where it's really making it worse now that you say he only messaged 1, but followed the girls on IG. So now we're going to ask, did he follow all 5 of them? Sweet Jesus. I can't do this. Just talking about these kids is daunting. And I want to make sure I got out all the latest updates in the Q search engine pertaining to the story, because I'm exhausted talking about these kids. Because in the end, as I have said before, Kohberger is not going to admit to killing them, no matter what the evidence is, no matter what CCTV footage, no matter who identifies him at the scene, identifies his car at the scene or in the general area, no matter the phone pings and data, no matter what they find in the apartment. He's never going to admit to killing those kids. The only way he will admit to telling the truth is when he has exhausted all judicial processes in the court of law. Then he will tell the truth. And that will possibly be years from now. I will possibly be fully gray. Fully gray. He will pull a John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy move. When he's exhausted all measures, then he will tell the truth about what happened November 13th. You're welcome, sweetie. He's never going to confess. Because he knows he messed up. He knows he should have never drove his car there. He knows he should have never even chose the girls and messaged them, but he did what he wanted to do. But he can't go back, can't take it back. It's over with. 4 children have perished from a sick decision. But that's on him. But he's not getting ready to fold because he's a narcissist. So he's got to stand down, just, stand his place and say, well, I'm going to take it all the way to the end. I know I'll probably die in here. I'll probably die early if they give me the death penalty. So I got to take it all the way. I know they've got the goods on me. And 9 times out of 10, they'll find 12 sane individuals who will find him guilty. I don't listen to all that garbage about loopholes and holes and all that. That's the very reason why they didn't never tell us anything, because they knew not to tell you anything as to preserve the investigation. If indeed there is a cohort, that will be even worse. Because then that means one monster is apprehended and the other one is currently free. And who might that be? The co-conspirator. Please go back to the beginning of this live stream to get the set information of Kohberger allegedly stalking the girls through social media. Information about the sealing of the apartment, the warrant. Megan Kelly is speaking with guests. He was teased as a child by girls who are eerily similar to these girls, popular girls. It's something I didn't really touch on in this live stream. Was that the problem? However, he found them on social media. Friend suggestion. These blonde-haired girls kind of look like the girls who teased me in grade school, the cheerleaders. A plump little Caucasian kid that the girls didn't like or did not favor. So who all teased them? Boys and girls? Neighborhood children? Did he ever tell his parents he was teased? Didn't like going to school? If he did tell them, what did they do about it? Did they consult with the school? Did they ever meet with his teachers, faculty, principal? And it is known that bullies were bullied. There's no shock that the bullied child gets tired of being bullied and he or she rises up from the ashes and becomes the executioner. And that's exactly what happened here. He was slowly evolving into a monster. And the family had to have seen the signs, because the fact that the father asked his neighbor to friend him was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. Was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. Why in the world is a grown man trying to get his adult son friends? So as I had always said, they knew their child was trouble. And they possibly coddled him over the years because that's their child. People do it all the time. They coddle their children. It's the very reason why a lot of grown people are wayward. It's because they are treated like children and they are adults and their parents don't implement any guidance and structure for them to act as if they can stand on their own. And when you have people coddling you, you're going to have a hard time in life. You have to know how to stand on your own. You can't just have your hand held. And that's what Daddy was doing out in Washington. This is very baffling information to me. Wow. Will you friend my son? That's deep. I wonder if the guy said something to Kohberger about what the dad said, because I think a grown person would be a bit pissed to know their father said that. Did he say it in front of Kohberger or when Kohberger wasn't listening? I'm curious to know. Did he date in the short months of being Washington State? Has he ever dated a girl, been on a real date, had a real girlfriend, had real sexual relations? Because what'll be interesting if we find out Kohberger is a virgin. Sweet Jesus. But there are people who are older who have not had sexual relations. And frankly, there is no rush to bed a person, as we've seen the casualties of having sex prematurely and out of wedlock, if you believe in the scripture. There are ramifications. This is a whack story. And the crazier part of the story is that there are other Kohbergers out there. So Washington State needs to get a grip with not wanting this case discussed at the school. That's the most baffling thing I've heard as well. You didn't make Kohberger. You can't get inside of a person's head to say, well, we're not going to talk about this today because possibly some of you in here are diabolical. And that's what a lot of experts are saying. It's that you got to stop dwelling on the fact that he majored in psychology and criminology because possibly he was already tainted before he even got to college. And possibly he did use the courses to study himself, not just perpetrators and how the mind works, but he was studying himself. He was trying to learn about Bryan. So what did he learn? I am God, I think. I do believe he has a God complex. Very interesting. Maybe daddy helped him in that area too. Well, some will speculate that. So we have to get a receipt of when the father actually made it to Washington State. They're now saying that he did go there to help him move into the apartment. They are kind of differing in opinions about June and then August. So when did he actually get there? June or August? Some say he stalked them in June, but then they go back and say, well, no, it started in August with the stalking of the girls. So this is why you're not supposed to be talking, because you have difference of opinions and people don't know what to believe. So what? I don't understand what you're saying. What do you mean? I'm talking about him not being a virgin. What about it? What about him not being a virgin? I mean, he may be one. I mean, if you feel like you're an outcast, that's your perception of yourself. And you're judging yourself according to how people have treated you. Does not mean that everyone thinks ill of you, but you have given yourself that perception. So when you walk out in the world, you assume this is what people see me as. So imagine trying to talk to a woman and you keep getting, turned down. I don't make excuses for Kohberger because he's grown. But I do believe he's had a very sad and pathetic life. And he is not the only person who is walking around tortured. He's a tortured soul. And so I have to feel sorry for the old Bryan, the child that he once was. That's who I have to feel sorry for. The child who never got accepted. That's the sick part of the story, beside the deaths of the children, is that he was once a child. And somewhere down the road, he felt unworthy. And that is a terrible place to be in the world. And sadly, there are people who are Kohberger's age and older, 40, 50, 60, and still need validation. So that is something that possibly needs to be discussed in classrooms pertaining to individuals, is acceptance. Because so long as you're walking around beating yourself up and judging yourself according to how you've been treated by others, then you will start to assume that's who you are, is this person that these people have made you out to be. So I'd like to know, did the parents ever try to help their child? Did they see the signs that he was dwindling downward? Did they ever try to get him any type of mental help? Has he also been diagnosed with any type of mental defect, personality disorder? Did the doctor ever recommend any medications? Did he take them? Did he stop? And if he's evaluated for this crime, which I'm sure he will be, what would the diagnosis be today, if any? Very interesting. But see, that's the thing about becoming an adult, is that people don't really care about what happened to you as a child. Some may, but some won't. What people are looking at is that you're going to have to let that go. What happened to you? How you were treated? Who robbed you of your childhood, stole from you, bullied you? Because people expect you to act accordingly. That's just the way it is. Even wrongdoers know they're doing wrong. But it's up to them to own it. And they don't have to if they don't want to. But we all know when we're doing wrong. And that was mentioned earlier by Mr. John Kelly, the profiler. Does he know what he did is wrong? Very good question. But the planning and the going into the home, breaking and entering, wearing a mask, possibly gloves, shows he's lucid enough. The fact that he's a graduate student shows he knows how to navigate scholastically, which means he doesn't have a scholastic default. Mental possibly, but not scholastically, because those two are different. Thank you, Adrian. Yes, I'm a heavy thinker. You wouldn't believe this. The Queen majored in communications in school. But nonetheless, he's a human being. And some of us won't view him that way because he stole 4 lives for no reason. And his reasonings, he felt to him was right. So I understand why John Kelly was asking that question. I was watching his commentary earlier. His mindset is on a whole different level. And you hear a lot of men who have become serial killers later in interviews give you their reasoning why they chose the victim, how they chose the victim, how they viewed the victim. And most of them, it's all unison. They're objects, the victims. As BTK called his victims projects, we heard Dr. Ramsland say. So they don't even see them as human beings. So if you don't see a person as a human, then all bets are definitely off. You're just a target. And that's a horrible word to use for a human, because that word has been used extensively pertaining to this case. Who was the target? Who was the target? You know, like you're out hunting, person hunting an animal. You know, animals hunt each other for survival because that's how God wanted it. Man hunted an animal for food, but man was not supposed to hunt man. That's where man is messed up. He's crossed over. I no longer see you as my equal. That's well said, Queen. I no longer see you as my equal. And if we are to believe the post that he made many moons ago, he says that. He doesn't see anything in people. Blank. They're blank slates. And that's also a terrible way of living, is to see nothing in a two-legged creature. Because we all can get disgusted with people. God knows I do all the time. Just the blatant ignorance. And you just saying to yourself, damn, what is wrong with this person? The hell is your problem? But I have dealt with people who have the mindset of Kohberger. And I can testify to that. And they are grown. A few years older than Kohberger, one's almost 40 and has no empathy for anybody. He doesn't feel nothing. He feels nothing. So what? Big deal. Why do you care? Be very careful of people who use that as an answer. So what? Who cares? Why are you talking about that? Why do you care about that? It's not your concern. Not my problem. You should be very leery of anyone that speaks in that manner. Now, if it's something that's just something you don't really need to be concerned with, you understand? Because everybody's different in what concerns them. But when that's the answer for every conversation, you can't even hold a conversation without that being the response. Run like hell. I'm telling you. Run like hell. Because I'm sure Kohberger talked to people that way. What's the matter? Why are you talking like that? Oh, you don't mean that. And he probably said, yes, I do. I mean every word. You care, I don't. And it does come from trauma when people use that as their mantra. I don't care. I don't care. Who cares? Something terrible has happened to them, and they are now devoid of emotion, no empathy. And that's a dangerous person. As I brought you content a while ago, and Dr. Ramsey, I believe, has said it too, and some other experts have said it pertaining to this case, that a psychopath does not necessarily become a killer, and a killer is not necessarily a psychopath. Always remember that. That's a great, great analogy. Because we would assume, well, he's a psychopath, he's a killer. She's a psychopath, she's a killer. They're saying, no, you could have psychopathic traits. Impulse, no impulse. Control. But you haven't crossed over yet to kill somebody. And that most of us have these qualities. We are just not murderers. We haven't crossed over. And some of us need to understand, because I've said this earlier during this live stream. I've seen Kohbergerism in the chat, in the comment sections on Facebook, news break articles, YouTube videos, news videos. I watch the commentary. And there's a lot of BKs out there walking, men and women. Don't get it twisted. Females are just as diabolical and empty, devoid of emotions. Stalk people, follow them around from chat to chat, channel to channel, Facebook to IG, digging. Some of you don't realize that's not a good trait to have. And I'm sure some of you would say, well, why would you say that? Because I can. When you excessively dig and you just always have an answer pertaining to someone, a response, that's not good. And some of you don't even know that you do it. You dig, and dig. You got to get an answer. I gotta know. Gotta know the foot size, shoe size, mama name, daddy name, birthplace. You don't find that disturbing behavior? I want you to think about that for a second, because it's easy to judge Kohberger because of the evidence left behind at the scene. If you're entitled to your opinion, if you believe he is the perpetrator. And we talk about these people a lot, those who are following true crime podcasts and information via the internet. But I think some of you need to check yourselves that you have identifying factors as Kohberger. And others say this, and you don't even see it. That's why experts have been saying, as of late, the psychology and the criminology majoring is not necessarily the focus and the issue to how he became who he is. That we are all in the running to becoming a psychopath, sociopath, sadist. We have those features in our disposition. We just haven't killed anybody yet. Say yet. And I see it a lot here on social media. Very psychopathic behavior. The dwelling on stuff. It's baffling to me. And I've told myself recently that this cannot be the catch-all. Talking about sick people and dead people every day. That cannot be the focus. Because it's deviant. And as some people have said, even in movies, and someone that talked to John Wayne Gacy, you don't want them in your head. One guy that talked to Gacy, I felt like he was damn near trembling talking about his visits with him. And the first thing I said to myself was, why were you going to see him? See, you have to own your part. Because were you going to be a friend? You were enamored in what you heard about him. You were curious about him. You were a reporter. You were writing a book. What was your motive for wanting to go into the belly of the beast? And I think many people need to ask themselves that. Why are you watching true crime daily? Why are you responding daily? Why are you going from site to site to site, app to app to app daily? Why do you need to comment daily? Why? Because some of you may possibly, seriously, be delving into obsession. You're becoming what you say you loathe. And many people do. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. I'm never going to do this. Because many people say they're growing up, right? About your parents. He did this, she did that. Alcoholic, drug addict, OCD, PTSD, paced back and forth. You know, whatever quirks your parents had. And before you know it, you are doing the same. We all need a reality check. All of us. That's a part of growth. Owning your shit. And knowing when to say to yourself, you know what? Nah, I don't need to do that. I don't need to say that. I don't need to go over there. I don't need to be talking to this person. I don't need to be thinking about that. Maybe I'll do that later. Maybe I won't go down that road. Want to get more information pertaining to this case, I will bring it to you. Want to update and post to my community board? Please go to my community board to check all updated stories. Some things on the community board I do not discuss, but it's just to show you what's going on in America. My next subject matter is going to be a very dicey subject matter pertaining to the morning after pill. There's something going on down in Alabama I want to bring a little bit of light to. Know that this is not a true crime channel. I talk about breaking news and various topics. I want to thank you for your time. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are welcome during the live streams. Please post your comments to the community board. New direction now this year. Thank you for following all said information. Please check out Candy. That is my series recommendation for this week. Now playing on Hulu. Has a few episodes. This is pertaining to the horrific story that took place in Texas 40 plus years ago of Candy Montgomery, who killed her female neighbor with an axe in self-defense. Candy had been having an affair with Betty's husband, Although the affair had allegedly ended, Betty had confronted her one day in her home, and all hell broke loose. Check out Hulu, Candy. I will possibly bring that story to light on a Crime Vault video. Thank you all so much for your time. You are listening to The Vault.